Cardano experienced an impressive price run in the first few weeks of 2021, rising nearly 600% between January and February. Hi Fixers, welcome to Fix Your Finances, Build Financial Wealth. If you want to build your financial wealth and fill your mind with the right information, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more valuable content. Let's get to it. Although few would argue against Bitcoin's dominance of the crypto sphere, particularly after BTC's own record-breaking run in the first weeks of the year, the battle of the altcoins appears to be heating up, with Cardano, Polkadot, and Binance Coin all vying for the top spot. Cardano has received game-changing news with the completion of a $380 million Cardano acquisition by FD7 Ventures. This is an actual mass accumulation from institutions taking place right in front of our eyes. Furthermore, the CEO of IOG believes that Cardano will be widely accepted within 3 to 5 years. In addition, IOG proposes to run an entire country's backend on Cardano. Let's start with the big news, which is that FD7 Ventures have completed a $380 million Cardano acquisition. They did, however, sell their Bitcoin for Cardano to complete such a large purchase. In addition, they bought Polkadot. However, for the purposes of this video, we will concentrate on the Cardano part. Prakash Chand, the managing partner of FD7, recently made headlines by publicly predicting that the price of Cardano and Polkadot could increase by 20 times in the next 2 to 3 years. According to Chand, his British stance on old coins is founded on his conviction that institutional capital will flow into Cardano, Polkadot, and Ethereum at a much faster adoption rate than seen in Bitcoin. FD7 Ventures isn't just any old firm. These people are dealing with serious money, and guess what? Out of all projects, they have selected Cardano and Polkadot, implying that they really do see a future for those two projects, and they genuinely believe that they will make significant gains, especially against Bitcoin. Chand has also spent a significant amount of time with the best minds in crypto. He claims that Cardano and Polkadot can cause considerable disruption through industries in the coming years, revolutionizing healthcare, real estate finance, and the networks that control governments with blockchain solutions. So yeah, it's all massive news for Cardano all over. It is really encouraging to know that people like FD7 Ventures are so enthusiastic about the project. Let's move on to the IOG news. Charles Hoskinson believes Cardano will be widely adopted within 3 to 5 years. In an interview with Real Vision, Charles Hoskinson said, "We're just starting to see Cardano awaken." In this talk, he discussed Cardano's origins and the platform's future, which has amassed a community of 1 million users. He says that Cardano is a set of protocols and technologies that allows you to transform, store, and manage value identity and governance. He also mentions how there are many bright people who are fair and hardworking. They are, however, totally disconnected from the global economy. Cardano aims to address this problem. Africa is one of the central regions where Cardano can concentrate on mass adoption. You can create applications on top of it that manage value brokering, identity, and governance to solve real-world problems, and he sold them despite the fact that everyone involved was already aware of the rules. There is no asymmetry of details. There is no gatekeeper who can prevent you from entering. This technology is critical to the African economy. Just look at the level of corruption in that region. First and foremost, Cardano seeks to address both of these issues. Furthermore, all economic actors will be able to minimize costs in all processes and exchange in universal markets using universal wallets. Users will be able to transact in any currency or service tokenized on the blockchain using these wallets. Cardano's new feature, which allows you to tokenize anything you know that is definitive, has already been rolled out. Now we're thinking about a more scientific approach in the areas where Cardano can make a difference. According to Hoskinson, they have put themselves ahead of their rivals. The platform's greatest challenge is governance, but Project Catalyst has made tremendous progress with fantastic collaborations. As Hoskinson said, "We have some ideas about universality, but there is one country in the world where you can point and tell, all works there, and that is the land of utopia. Governance is the most challenging thing to create, and we believe it will take decades. We have a process in place that drives us to the right direction progressively. There will be setbacks and delays, but the widespread usage and acceptance that will occur over the next 3 to 5 years are unavoidable. By 2025, Cardano intends to run an entire country's back-end on the Cardano blockchain, and this country will undoubtedly be in Africa. To begin with, you should be aware that Africa is a developing market and that, in the not-too-distant future, we might see a significant amount of value emanating from the continent. China is constructing a massive network of highways, and now Cardano has the ability to revolutionize their economy. So here's what we had to say. One of our long-term goals is to run an entire country's backend on Cardano. Cardano e-governance aims to do this. One example would be the Estonia project, which attempted to digitize as much of their economy as possible. It didn't turn out to be as well as they had hoped, but it was still a significant step forward. Finally, for the Cardano update, you should be aware that a possible contract with a telecommunications firm is in the works. So here's what Charles said. A lot of people say it's not possible, he said, but I recently was at a big telco, who shall remain nameless. We discussed India versus the United States and the spectrum in the United States being heavily controlled. It's highly autocratic, it's top-down from the SEC, and in India, it's like a brutal cutthroat marketplace where you have this patchwork of micro ISPs working together, but you know you can still get really good service. So, once again, we have some information that Charles Hoskinson is talking to 2 prominent names and possibly forming alliances for the Cardano blockchain. Looking at the container map, you can see that it adheres to the levels very well. We started with the support stage and worked our way up to the next big one. We have since rebounded from this as a resistance. We seem to be going back down at the moment. Now for us to become bullish on Cardano, it would have to rise above a price of around or $1.17.9 in the short term. If we rise and close above that level on the 4-hour map, we anticipate a price of $1.32. But, to be honest, the Cardano chart doesn't tell us anything. You can see that the graph is clearly trending downward. We have come to the end of a huge massive run-up for the Cardano project, which has taken it all the way up to a new all-time high of nearly $1.50. So, dips like this are pretty common, and Cardano doesn't need to cool down to ensure that this run is still safe. However, in the short term, if the price of Cardano closes above $1.17 or roughly $1.18 on the 4-hour map, we would consider it bullish. What we'd like to see is a possible ascending triangle shape. This would allow us to potentially rise. Guys, bear in mind that we can make a double bottom if we break down and touch that line again. If we do end up closing below a price of $1.03 on the 4-hour map, we will have a target cost of about 88 cents. To be frank, it's very good to have a strategy for both bearish and bullish scenarios, as it is the next big area of support. As a result, the price of Cardano is primarily determined by the price of Bitcoin. So, looking at the price of Bitcoin, we can be pretty bullish because we seem to be developing a head and shoulders trend, which is obviously not ideal, and these trends have a tendency to cause the price of Bitcoin to fall. Now, for this head and shoulders trend to be invalidated, we must close above a price of about $51,500 US. If Bitcoin increases in value and we reach that level, the head and shoulders pattern will be rendered invalid, and you know you can potentially safely turn bullish on Bitcoin as a whole once more. So, if Bitcoin closes above the resistance line at $51,586 US, we will most likely be turning bullish all over. However, as you are aware, it is preferable not to sell any of your oats. We've seen many people try to swap their favorite projects and end up only keeping less of the coin and buying the top and selling the bottom. Guys, when all they had to do was keep for the long run. When Ethereum was about $10, a lot of people wanted to exchange it for $15, sell it there, and then try to buy it lower, when all they had to do was simply keep, and they would have gotten 100 times out of Ethereum. Cardano is widely regarded as the most promising cryptocurrency on the market. From the way it was built to the many updates it has received since its initial release. Cardano is one of the few networks that can check all the boxes and has no apparent flaws when it comes to the future of blockchain, which cannot be said for Ethereum or Bitcoin. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on Cardano hitting $10. And make sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at @FixYourFinances_. See you next time at Fix Your Finances.